I never thought I would be here. Sitting in my car, hands gripping the steering wheel so tight my knuckles turned white, my heart pounding against my ribs like a war drum. The weight of the discovery crushed my chest, making it hard to breathe. I stared at the dimly lit house in front of me. Our house. The house where I built dreams with my wife. The home filled with laughter, late-night whispers, and the scent of her favorite lavender candles. But tonight, it felt different. It felt like a graveyard of broken promises. My mind replayed the moment that shattered everything. Earlier that evening, I had been at work when I received a message, an anonymous text with a picture. My wife. Amelia, in another man's arms. The timestamp on the photo was fresh. Just an hour ago, disbelief had gripped me first. Then, a strange calmness settled over me as I left my office, got into my car, and drove straight home. But now, sitting outside in the darkness, I felt the storm brewing inside me. My fingers trembled as I reached for my phone. The messages were still there, glaring at me like an open wound. More pictures followed the first, intimate, undeniable. A video, too. I couldn't bring myself to press play. I squeezed my eyes shut, hoping this was all a nightmare. That any second now, I'd wake up, turn over, and find Amelia sleeping peacefully beside me, but I was awake. And she wasn't inside sleeping, she was with him. The soft hum of music reached my ears from the house. My house. A song we used to dance to on lazy Sundays. The thought made my stomach churn. I pushed the car door open, stepping out into the cold night. Every step toward the house felt heavy, like I was walking toward my own execution. Reaching the front door, I hesitated. My breath came in short gasps. Did I really want to see it with my own eyes? Did I need more proof? Then, as if answering my unspoken question, a shadow moved behind the curtain. A male silhouette. Close to Amelia's. Too close. I gritted my teeth. My pulse pounded in my ears. I reached for the doorknob and twisted it open. The next moment shattered my world into a million pieces. Amelia, my wife of 7 years, stood in our living room, wrapped in nothing but a bedsheet. And standing beside her, half-dressed, was a man I had never seen before. Her eyes widened in horror. Daniel. She whispered, voice trembling. I could barely hear her. The blood was rushing too fast in my ears. My entire body felt numb, yet an uncontrollable rage burned within me. The man looked at me, then at Amelia, then back at me. He started. Shut up, I growled. My voice was low, dangerous. Amelia clutched the sheet tighter against her chest. Tears welling in her eyes. It's not what it looks like. I let out a bitter laugh. Really? Because it looks like my wife just destroyed our marriage. Silence hung thick in the air. I turned to the man. Get out, I said coldly. He hesitated. Big mistake. I lunged at him before he could react. My fist connected with his jaw, sending him crashing to the floor. He scrambled up, grabbing his shirt, and bolted out of the house like a coward. Then it was just me and Amelia, the love of my life. The woman I had given everything to, and now, she was nothing but a stranger. She sobbed, stepping toward me, reaching out. Daniel, please, let me explain, but I took a step back. Because in that moment, I realized something. The woman I loved was gone. And the person standing before me, she had betrayed me in the worst way possible. I stared at Amelia, my breath shallow, my chest heaving. The woman I had vowed to love, honor, and cherish stood in front of me, belly covered, shaking with guilt. My hands trembled at my sides, clenched into fists as I fought the urge to scream, to demand answers, to break something. But what was the point? The damage had already been done. Daniel, please, she sobbed, stepping toward me, her voice desperate. Let me explain. I let out a bitter laugh. Explain what, Amelia? That you invited another man into our home? That you let him touch you in the bed we shared? My voice cracked, But I refused to let my pain show. Tears spilled down her cheeks as she wrapped the sheet tighter around herself. It wasn't like that. I didn't mean for this to happen, I scoffed. You didn't mean to cheat on me? I shook my head, my heart pounding. How long? She hesitated. That moment of silence was enough to send my anger over the edge. How long, Amelia? I roared, slamming my fist against the wall. She flinched, her body shaking. 3 months, she finally admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. A sharp, searing pain tore through my chest. 3 months. 90 days of lies. 90 days of coming home to her, kissing her, making love to her, while she was giving herself to someone else. I let out a shaky breath, my vision blurring. Who is he? She bit her lip, looking down. It doesn't matter, I let out a dark chuckle. It does matter, Amelia. Who is he? Her silence was deafening, and then, realization hit me like a freight train. I took a step back, my stomach twisting. Is it someone I know? She squeezed her eyes shut, fresh tears streaming down her face. I felt like the air had been knocked out of me. I thought I had already experienced the worst pain tonight, but no, this was worse. I turned away, my hands on my head as I let out a heavy sigh. I had to leave before I did something I would regret. Daniel, she cried, reaching out for me. Please don't go. I turned back, my eyes burning with a mix of anger and heartbreak. I have to. Because if I stay, I'll never be able to look at you without remembering this moment. Her face crumpled, and she fell to her knees, sobbing uncontrollably, but I didn't stay to comfort her. I grabbed my keys and walked out the door, leaving behind the woman who had shattered my heart into a million pieces. The cold night air hit me as I stepped outside, but it did nothing to cool the rage burning inside me. My feet felt heavy as I walked toward my car, my mind clouded with 1,000 questions. Why did she do this? Had I not been enough? Had she ever loved me at all? I got into my car, gripping the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles turned white. My mind raced, flashing through memories of our life together, the vacations, the nights we stayed up talking, the way she used to look at me like I was her whole world. Had it all been a lie? I slammed my fist against the dashboard. A strangled yell escaping my lips. I couldn't go home. Not tonight. Instead, I drove aimlessly through the city, the streetlights blurring as my vision clouded with unshed tears. I didn't know where I was going until I pulled up to the one place I felt safe, my best friend, Marcus' house. I knocked on his door, my chest tightening. When he opened it, his brows furrowed in confusion. Daniel. Man, it's late. What's going on? I opened my mouth to speak, but nothing came out. Instead, the weight of the night crashed over me like a tidal wave, and for the first time, I felt the full impact of my wife's betrayal. Marcus took one look at me and stepped aside. Come in, as I walked into his apartment. I knew one thing for certain, my life would never be the same again. The next morning, I woke up on Marcus' couch, my body stiff, my mind still trapped in the nightmare of last night. For a brief moment, I forgot. But then, reality hit me like a slap to the face. Amelia had cheated on me. I sat up, rubbing my temples as the headache from last night's pain and exhaustion settled in. Marcus walked in, handing me a cup of coffee. You barely slept, he said. I took the cup, staring at the dark liquid. How do you move on from something like this? Marcus sighed, sitting across from me. You don't. Not right away. I let out a bitter chuckle. I just keep replaying it in my head. The look on her face, the way she begged me to stay. I trailed off, shaking my head. And the worst part? I still love her. Marcus leaned forward. You trusted her, Daniel. You built a life with her. It's not easy to turn that off overnight, I exhaled, staring at the coffee in my hands. What do I do now? He ran a hand over his face. That depends. Do you want to fix this, or do you want to walk away? I didn't answer. Because truthfully, I didn't know. As the days passed, I avoided Amelia's calls and messages. I needed space, but I wasn't prepared for what I found out next. One evening, I was sitting in my car, staring at my phone when an unknown number called. Curious, I answered. A deep voice spoke. "Is this Daniel? Who's asking? I think you should know something about your wife." My heart pounded. "Who is this?" There was a pause. "I'm the husband of the woman she's been seeing." Time seemed to freeze. "Meet me," he said. "I think you deserve the truth." My hands felt clammy as I gripped the steering wheel, my mind racing with 1,000 thoughts. The husband of the woman Amelia had been seeing? That meant she hadn't just destroyed our marriage, she had ruined another one too. I parked outside a small diner, my heart pounding as I spotted the man sitting in a corner booth. He looked as wrecked as I felt, dark circles under his eyes, his fingers gripping a cup of coffee like it was the only thing keeping him together. I walked over, and he looked up. "You must be Daniel," he said, his voice hoarse. I nodded and sat down across from him. "Who are you?" he exhaled sharply. "Travis. My wife's name is Hannah. And from what I've discovered, she and Amelia have been seeing each other for months." My stomach twisted. "How did you find out?" He let out a bitter laugh. "A gut feeling at first. Then I started noticing the little things, late-night texts, sudden changes in her behavior. Last week, I put a tracker on her phone. I know it sounds crazy, but something in me knew she was lying." I swallowed hard. I had ignored the signs too. The sudden nights out with friends, the extra hours at work. It all made sense now. Travis slid his phone across the table. "I found these." I hesitated before picking it up. The screen showed texts, long, intimate messages between Amelia and Hannah. Messages that spoke of love, of passion, of sneaking around and stolen moments. My chest tightened. I scrolled further and found pictures, selfies of them together, their hands intertwined, their eyes filled with the kind of emotion Amelia hadn't shown me in months. I clenched my jaw. "I don't understand." "She never said anything, she never acted like she was unhappy," Travis scoffed. "That's the thing about cheaters, Daniel. They don't always leave clues. They just make you feel like you're the one losing them." I exhaled, my hands shaking. "What do you want from me?" He leaned forward. "I don't want revenge. I just needed to look you in the eye and tell you, we're in this together. We both lost something we thought was real." I stared at him, my emotions in turmoil. I had expected to feel anger. But all I felt was an overwhelming sense of loss. Amelia hadn't just betrayed me. She had been living a whole other life, and I had been too blind to see it. I drove back home, my fingers gripping the steering wheel as I replayed everything in my head. By the time I reached the house, my emotions were a storm inside me. I stepped inside, and Amelia was sitting on the couch, her eyes red and puffy from crying. She shot up when she saw me. "Daniel, thank God. I've been calling you." I stared at her, the weight of everything pressing down on my chest. "I met Travis." Her face paled. "Travis, Hannah's husband." She opened her mouth, but no words came out. I laughed bitterly. "You were never going to tell me, were you?" Tears streamed down her face. I didn't know how. I stepped forward, my voice sharp. "So instead, you let me think you were just having an affair with some man. You let me believe I wasn't enough. But the truth is, you weren't just cheating, you were lying about who you are." She sobbed, collapsing onto the couch. "I didn't want to hurt you. You did hurt me, Amelia," I yelled, my voice cracking. "You broke me. You let me think our marriage was real while you were falling in love with someone else." She covered her face, her body trembling. "I tried to stop it. I tried to fight it. But you didn't," I finished, my voice hollow. She looked up at me, her eyes filled with desperation. "I never wanted to hurt you, Daniel. I loved you, I still love you." I shook my head, feeling a lump form in my throat. "No, Amelia. You loved the idea of us. But if you truly loved me, you wouldn't have done this." Silence filled the room, thick and suffocating. I turned toward the door. "I need time." She stood up quickly. "Daniel, please, don't leave me." I stopped, my back to her. "You left me first, Amelia." Then I walked out. The next few weeks were a blur of pain, anger, and emptiness. I moved into Marcus' guest room, drowning myself in work to avoid thinking about the mess my life had become. Amelia sent messages. She called. She even showed up at Marcus' place once, but I wasn't ready. One night, I sat in the dark, a glass of whiskey in my hand, thinking about all the years I had given to her. "You going to let this destroy you?" Marcus asked, sitting beside me. I stared at the floor. "I don't know how to move forward." "You will," he said. "Maybe not today. Maybe not tomorrow. But you will," I exhaled, closing my eyes. I wanted to believe him. I needed to believe him. A month later, I agreed to meet Amelia one last time. We sat across from each other in a quiet cafe. She looked different, more fragile, more broken. "I'm leaving town," she said softly. I nodded, my heart surprisingly calm. "I hope you find what you're looking for, Amelia." She swallowed hard. "I never meant to hurt you." I gave her a small, sad smile. I know, for the first time, I felt at peace. I wasn't sure where life would take me next, but I knew one thing for certain: I would survive, and maybe, just maybe, I would learn to love again. Leave your comments in the comment section.
Please subscribe, like, comment and share this video. It means a lot to us. Thank you.